Welcome. Let's stand up and sing together this song, This Little Light of Mine. I've already got my... And so we let it be. Let us breathe deeply and allow ourselves into that place of stillness to gain entry to that still point, that place in our hearts, in our minds, in our beings that is connected to everything, that is the oneness of all life. Let us breathe deeply and exhale and just allow ourselves to be still and know that truly we are connected to one another, to all that is. And so as we sing together our next chant, I am remembering who I am. Let us remember that we are the life of spirit, living and moving and having its being here on the planet Earth. But let us also remember the connection that we feel with all beings. And we send this prayer of oneness around the world and out to the universe, to the stars, to the planets, and beyond. As together we know the wholeness of creation. And resting in the stillness as the stillness. We breathe in deeply and then exhale, opening our eyes in love with what is, as it is, and so it is.
I am ready for love. Why are you hiding from me? I'd quickly give my freedom just to stay in your captivity. I am ready for love. All of the joy and the pain, and all the time that it takes just to stay in your good grace. Lately I've been thinking maybe you're not ready for me. Maybe you think I need to learn maturity. They say watch what you ask for, 'cause you might receive. If you ask me tomorrow, I'll say the same thing. I am ready for love and do the best that I can do. I am ready for love, here with an offering of my voice, my life, this song, my life. Tell me what is enough to prove I am ready for love.
It's great to see all of you here today. Thank you for joining us. I'm not going to give a long introduction to our guest speaker because many of us know him, so let's just give some warm Ventura love to the Venerable Kusala Bhikshu. Thank you.
Well, I'm happy to be here today. Nice to be invited to speak. And I thought I'd share with you what I've come to understand about having a good life. And of course, good can be problematic because what's good to me may not be good to you. I had somebody ask me earlier, you don't like to be hugged? I said, not really. It distracts me from my monastic vows. But that's just me. So the Buddha warned us about karma. You know, in Buddhism, we don't have a divine lawgiver that decides for us what is right and what is wrong. Instead, we have karma. We have the cause and consequence of what we think, say, and do. And it's broken into two parts. The first part is the creation part, the karmic part, and then the second part are the consequence part. That I might speak unskillfully and it might ruin my day or my week or my month. And if I can see how those two things are connected, I may have something to say about what direction my life is going to go in. That I am one of the reasons my life goes this way or that way, but only one. There are 9,999 other reasons why my life goes this way or that way, but I'm participating. So the Buddha said if you understand that karma is what you think, say, and do, and there is a skillful way to think, say, and do things, and in Buddhism, a good life is to suffer less. Now, that may not be good enough for most people, because most people want to be happy. They want to enjoy the world around them. And a Buddhist is saying, I just don't want to suffer today. You know, life's hard enough without me suffering. And when I was 20, I didn't understand that. But at my current age, I've given up being happy, and now I don't want to suffer. You know. So how do we start as a Buddhist? How do we start changing the way we think, speak, and act? Well, we start changing the way we speak and act by taking the 5 precepts. And I'll remind you what they are and just give you a little bit of my commentary on them. The first precept is not to take life. And this is really difficult because we seem to be geared to taking life. You know, just the human condition of survival. Sometimes we have to kill things in order for us to survive. But now we live in a community, a giant community of 7 billion people. We have all sorts of law personnel, and we have attorneys, and we have courts, and we have a lot of things now to protect us. So we don't have to kill as much as we used to simply survive. Now, when I was younger, I sort of enjoyed going fishing. Fishing is a wonderful euphemism for killing fish. And sometimes people get in their boat and they go out into the ocean and they spend the whole day killing fish and they come back and say, I just had the best day of my life. Look at all the fish I killed today. Wow, well, as we mature in our spiritual practice, we might look at that in a little different way. We might say it is so difficult to be born on this planet Earth. And we're here such a short time. I understand there'll be a memorial service and we're celebrating the life that was lived. But all of us have to check out sooner or later. And some of us want to, some of us don't want to. A lot of our friends and family hate to see us go. You know, but if we have life insurance, well, so looking at life in a certain way allows us to honor the fact that they made it here on this planet Earth. You know, and that starts with the insects. I posted on my Facebook page yesterday a beautiful picture of a butterfly with clear wings. You could see through the wings. It looked like glass. What an amazing little creature that is, and how short its lifespan is. And rather than collecting it and holding it and looking at it, I think if we really look at the world as participating in it, we don't want to pick the most beautiful flower. We want to leave it for everybody to enjoy. We don't want to kill the most beautiful butterfly and put it in a frame on a wall. We want everybody to enjoy its life while it's here. And that's what I've come to understand about taking care of feral cats. We had a new one show up yesterday, a little gray one, a little skinny guy, and he had these little big eyes, and he was wondering if he was going to be accepted in our backyard. Some of the cats weren't quite sure. The colony has been formed, and it takes a while to break into the colony. But just to see this little guy, I'm thinking how wonderful it is in downtown Los Angeles, in Koreatown, to see this little life that's struggling to stay alive, looking for a refuge. And for some reason, it came to the Buddhist Meditation Center. How cool is that? Not to take what is not given. That's the second precept. Not to steal stuff, not to take stuff. You know, and I know ownership is an illusion. None of us own anything, but a lot of us think we do. A lot of us are paying, you know, mortgages and car payments. A lot of us have receipts, and it makes us feel good about owning stuff, because the more stuff we own, the better we are. Isn't that how it works? You know, and pretty soon we have so much stuff. There's a storage locker, and then there's another one. And at some point in our life, as we mature spiritually, what we start to do rather than consume is we start to give this stuff away. You know, I have far too many ukuleles, and I've given a couple of them away. And people would say to me, well, can't I just buy this from you? And no, please, let me give it to you. But there's one condition on me giving it to you, that if you don't like it in a couple years, you have to give it to somebody. You can never sell it. This is going to be a giving gift, not a merchant with a customer. So as I look at what I own, I see that I'm burdened with far too much, and I just live in a room. I mean, I can't imagine living in a house. Furniture? What's that? You know? So all this stuff, and I start to go through it, and some of the stuff is 5 years old and 10 years old. I haven't looked at it in 10 years. I'm just going to throw it away. I'm going to become light. I'm going to become free from my possessions. I don't want to own them any longer. I just want to use them until their usefulness to me is used up. And then I'll let somebody else use them. Sexual misconduct is the third one. And I've been thinking a lot about this lately because I've been getting some really deep insights into what it means to be a human being sexually. It seems to work like this. We're born, and the first job we have is to stay alive. Okay, so most of us have done pretty well. We're here today. Now our second job is to procreate, to replicate ourselves, to leave something behind, you know? And I just marvel at how many people are getting married so they can raise a family. Now, I've never had the thrill of raising a family. I take care of cats. It's not quite as hard. And what I've come to understand is your life is like over once you've had the kids. For the rest of your life, you're mom and dad. You know? And even if you take the family to Disneyland, the kids have a much different way of looking at it than the parents do. Because the parents are thinking about their charger cards, and the kids are having the best time of their lives. So you go into all these different events with a different mindset, and then they leave, and now you have the empty nest syndrome, and then they move back in, and then you go, well. So I think having sex is really good, and we have 7 billion people to prove that. But you know what? Sometimes maybe not having sex is good too, because it gives you a chance to look at your significant other in a very special way, as a human being, as someone who is your companion on this journey, this very special journey in life. And now and then lust arises, and that's fine. You know, but it doesn't last very long, and the older you get, it becomes sort of a hindrance, you know? I mean, you have to dress up, you have to smell good, you have to go someplace, you know? It's a lot of work. So I'm blessed not to have that work to do. I look at people and I realize we're all connected in so many different ways. I don't need to connect to them in that way. And that gives me a sense of freedom. That gives me a sense of not having to deal with being in a certain circumstance, of not having a mate, but simply making it a choice. That I have chosen, because of my vows, not to replicate. Now, I would imagine in my past lives as a Buddhist, I have replicated many times, and they're probably still walking on the earth someplace. But in this lifetime, I wanted to go sort of, solo, just to see what it's like. Spend more time on reflecting on what my life was all about, what I could do. What are the important things and the less important things in life? And towards the end of my life, I want to see how it feels to let go. How it feels to let go of everything forever. And people say, are you afraid of dying? The older I get, the less afraid I am. Because living is really a challenge. In my neighborhood, we have no parking. I don't know why people buy so many cars. The freeways, I look at the freeway speed limit at 65 and I say, I wish. I'm like going 40. Every place I go, there's a line, And just like, and the older I get, the less they see me. I'm almost invisible in line. All the young ones, are immediately spotted, and the old ones will say, well, we have to wait on them. And so maybe at some point in our life we say, yeah, this world is never going to get any better. It never has gotten any better. And what I need to focus on is having a good life and not relying on the earth or the political system or the religious systems to give that to me. Because I'm often disappointed if I say that's going to happen, because generally it doesn't happen in the way I think it should. But that's just my opinion. So, having sex is really good, but it causes us to have a lot of people. And we're 7 billion and counting, and I don't know how many more the planet can hold. So somebody asked the Dalai Lama, what do you think is a good kind of birth control, being a religious person? And the Dalai Lama said, I think every family should make one son or one daughter a monk or a nun. We'd have more spiritual people and less babies. And I'm thinking, yeah, that's a pretty good birth control, monasticism. The fourth thing is speaking unskillfully, saying just terrible things. Donald Trump comes to mind. Now, he's a very smart man, but he's opinionated. And he doesn't have the editing, he doesn't have the censorship thing worked out yet. So he just says what he thinks. And he causes a lot of people to feel uncomfortable and causes a lot of people to suffer because he's unskillful. He's not a bad man. He's just unskillful sometimes in the way he relates to the world and how he shares it with us. So speaking can cause a lot of suffering or can cause less suffering depending on how skillful you are. And last but not least, the fifth one is don't get high. Now, in my neighborhood, we have 3, 4, 5 marijuana dispensaries. And they're just always busy. And I'm walking down the street, and in my neighborhood, being a white person, we are a minority. And the only time I see other white people in my neighborhood are when they're going into the dispensaries. They use the local bus, and they're just sort of walking around, and they're frowning before they get in, and they're smiling after they come out. So I'm looking at getting high as being, sometimes it's maybe okay to have a little too much chocolate. I mean, it's just something about that makes life a little better. But some other times, if we have too much chocolate and we get into that depression cycle, we might react or respond in an unskillful way to the world around us because we're really depressed and need more chocolate. Can you imagine drugs and alcohol being like 10 times as powerful as chocolate? And all these people making important decisions while they're high, like driving, Because not only are they high when they're driving, but they're texting as well. I sold my motorcycle. I'm not going to ride a motorcycle anymore because in my neighborhood, nobody pays attention. And then when they hit you, they just leave. They don't even stay around to see how you're doing. So being high can cause a whole lot of suffering to the person who's high and to the people around them. It's just one of those things. So what I've talked about now is speech and action. That's how karma starts. We take these 5 precepts. I'm going to monitor what I say and do. I'm going to see if I'm increasing suffering or decreasing suffering. And I'm going to use that as a reference point in how I live my life. But there's another important aspect of karma, and that's the intention. This comes from understanding how meditation works and how our mind works. So as a Buddhist, we sit for long periods of time on the floor, cross-legged, suffering, but also watching the thoughts arise, exist, and pass away. Arise, exist, and pass away. Now, the Buddha said, we have 3 poisons we really need to be aware of. They are, number 1, lust and greed. They're sort of connected, lust and greed. Number 2, anger and hatred. Anger and hatred, they're sort of connected. And number 3, delusion and ignorance. They're connected as well. So we have these 3 poisons that change the way we experience the world. So if we hate something, we see it in a much different light than if we like something. If we have greed or desire or lust, whoa, does that change the way you respond to the world around you? It does to me. When I'm at Food for Less buying that cat food and I get lost on the bakery aisle and see those ding-dongs, 12 individually wrapped, whoa. That greed arises in one moment and I'm walking out with 20 cans of cat food and ding-dongs. So we have to monitor ourselves. We have to be aware of where this stuff is coming from. What's my intention behind what I say? What's my intention behind what I do? And when we get that down, we don't have to say it or do it. What we need to see is the root of that intention, and if it's unskillful, let that pass. And if it's skillful, we want to manifest it because it's a benefit to all those around us and benefit to our life as well. So now we're building this good life. They say about getting old, if you want to get old well, start early, And it's true. It's never too late to start getting old and do it in a skillful way. What does that mean? It means wisdom and compassion are such wonderful attributes, and we can manifest those at any point in our life. But it's really necessary, I think, in old age to manifest wisdom and compassion, to have patience with all those youngins out there who don't know yet, and to have patience with all those old ones out there who forgot. And just say, yeah, we're all in this together. We're all connected. I'm not separate. You're not separate. And now the payoff. Okay, you've been working on your 5 precepts. You've been meditating. You're seeing all these intentions. Now you're in charge. And you go, okay, how do I want my intentions to be? What do I want them to be rooted in? And the answer is all intentions at the end of your spiritual path could, should, might be rooted in kindness. Kindness. Whoa, this is such an interesting concept. I saw a guy in an Audi flip off a guy in a Cadillac because he wouldn't let him into the lane. And I'm thinking, he didn't look very kind to me, what he was doing, and he lacked patience, to say the least. And can you say no with kindness? Can you be above the fray and in saying no or saying yes, do it in the same way with kindness? It's not about losing your boundaries or letting people walk over you. It's about standing still, looking at the world and saying to yourself, kindness makes a difference. Kindness benefits everyone in this world. And it surely benefits all those dogs and cats. Kindness is a wonderful thing, but it takes us a long time to get to that place because we're selfish and it's all about us up to a point. If we're lucky, as we get older, it becomes about them and not about us. That all the things you wanted to do and achieve when you were young seem to be pretty trivial when you're in your 60s, 70s, and 80s. It was fun to participate in the game of life. But now that I'm sort of like semi-retired and getting Medicare and my Social Security and a little money when I give a talk, I'm thinking, I am so glad I don't have to go back into that workforce and work and be something I don't want to be. People say, I hate my job. That's why they call it work. That's why they pay you to go there. You know? You know, I'll show up for free because I enjoy what I do. And if somebody gives me some money, it's even better. But I am so blessed to be doing what I think makes me feel good and suffer less. Now, the second thing, if our intention is rooted in kindness, every activity we have, physical or speech, will be compassionate. It'll be a compassionate activity that reduces suffering. Wow, kindness and compassion. Kindness is an intention, compassion is an activity. The activity of reducing suffering, according to Buddhism. So, are Buddhists engaged? More and more we are engaged in the world around us. More and more we want to make a difference in the world. Why is that? Not because we want to make the world better. This world sucks. It always will. But we're out there working in the trenches because we want people in this terrible world to suffer less. That's all. We want them to suffer less. If they're hungry, maybe we can feed them. If they need medical care, maybe we can find some place to take them. If they need shelter, maybe, and it goes on and on and on. Not because we even want to make their life better, we just want them to have less suffering in their life. And if they have less suffering, we'll have less suffering because we're all interconnected and interdependent on each other. This is a radical statement made by the Mahayana tradition the first century. Through meditation and Buddhist practice, they came to understand that all things are interconnected and interdependent. We're all in this together, whether we know it or not. And once we start to realize that and go from selfish to selfless, something remarkable happens. Your whole life, you were really working hard on being happy. You've given that up now. You realize it's not going to work. And now you look around and you see all these other people and you say, maybe because we're all interconnected, I can find my happiness through them and not through my activities or intentions, but through them. Now imagine this. Instead of having only one way to be happy, now you have 7 billion ways to be happy. 7 billion ways to be happy. Oh my gosh. Now, rather than working so hard for you to be successful, you take enjoyment in others being successful. And when they achieve something, you're right there with them because you're connected to them in a very special way. So rather than you fighting for your own success, now you can find success in 7 billion ways. This is a remarkable way to live your life, to look at the world around you and say, I'm helping people suffer less. I'll have 7 billion ways to suffer less. I'm going to help people find happiness. I'll have 7 billion ways to be happy. We continue, and then what happens? We die. Really? 50, 60, 70 years of practice, meditation, community service, prayer, all the things we do to have a wonderful life and be a good person, and then we die? Doesn't seem like a big payoff to me. But how about if we die well? How about if that life well lived leads us to a death that doesn't create suffering for ourselves or others? That becomes simply a transition. For a Christian, maybe to heaven. For a Buddhist, to another life. But that's the end of all our stories. Each and every one of us had a beginning, we had a middle, and we're going to have an end. And as I get older, the end becomes a little bit more important. So how do I want to die well? I want to have my last thought be the first thought of the next lifetime. I want to have a thought of generosity, of compassion, of wisdom. I want to have a really good last thought. And it may have taken me 70 or 80 years to get to that place where I can have a really good last thought. You know, I'm not going to fight death. There's no reason to fight death. You know what they say? They say good health is simply the slowest way a human being can die. So I understand that, and I know at some point my health will go south, and I'm just going to sort of go for the ride. What's it going to sort of be like? You know, they're going to want to, maybe we can, resuscitate him, give him a few more days, a few more hours. I'm not sure. I'm getting ready. I'm going to have to turn away from this life. I'm going to have to look at it and say, I've done the best I could. I haven't always succeeded. I failed a lot. But I've been engaged. I've been mindful. I wanted my heart and mind to be connected in all my choices. And now I'm going to turn away from this and look towards the next one. A rebirth, a starting over. I only wish I could remember what I learned in this lifetime and take that with me. But I can't, because this lifetime has a beginning, middle, and end. And that stuff doesn't seem to migrate, according to Buddhism, very well to the next lifetime. So it's going to seem like the first time, which this life seems like to me, the first time. But if I can inspire people to look at their life in another way, and say, yeah, maybe with the time I have, you don't need much money to be kind. You don't need to have a big house to be kind. Just a little kindness, a little compassion and activity, and appreciating the fact that we're all connected in a very special way. That may be enough. That may be what we in Buddhism would call a good life. Thank you for listening. There we go.
Let us pray. And so let's just turn within and just take a few nice deep breaths together, breathing in and exhaling. And just allowing ourselves once again to be still and to know that glorious presence of this thing that we call life. This life that is so abundant and so full of darkness and light, that is embraced in this wholeness that we call everything. Right here and right now, I connect to that life, to that wholeness, to that fullness, and claim it as my life, and know that it is the life of every single person sitting in this sacred sanctuary. And though I speak in the first person, I am using the sacred I am, meaning that I speak for all of us. Because there truly is only one being here, one interconnected being, and that is Spirit. And so I breathe into the awareness of the Spirit, and I know that I am blessed, that I am filled with the intention to live a good life, that I am mindful of what my thoughts are and what my last thought might be, perhaps knowing that's the starting point for the next life. I choose my thoughts with skill and intention, with the intention of kindness and with the action of compassion. I choose to live a good life, and I choose to look at my definition of what a good life is and allow myself to expand past the point of what is it I will get, but to move it into what will I give. And so right here and right now, I become a conscious giver, vowing to give my all to the love, to the power, to the grace of every being, living, inanimate, animal, vegetable, mineral, human, surrendering to that greater love that seeks expression to us right here and right now. And so I am grateful, so grateful for this time that we have spent together, so grateful for our guest speaker, Reverend Kusala, so grateful for love and for life, so grateful for the transformation that I know has occurred here by virtue of our work together. So grateful for open mind and open hearts and for an increase of the compassion in the world. I am grateful for this spiritual center and every person here today, seen and unseen. I am grateful for all teachings, all paths to God, churches, synagogues, temples, mosques, ashrams. I bless all of them, as I bless atheists and fundamentalists, knowing that everyone is a blessing in their own unique and wild and crazy way. So, in a spirit of deep gratitude, I simply give thanks for this morning and for everything that is. And with a heart filled, I release these words to the mystery, and together we say, and so it is.
I remember me staring at myself. See these same two eyes, see these same 2 feet. I remember you, you're who I used to be. You still look the same, but you don't hurt like me. Look at my reflection, somewhere my affection disappeared. Is it here? Nothing left to say. Memories, they're fading, but I'm the one who made them. So I keep this love close enough to say, what if this life is all that we are given? We just can't stop living, scared of what we'll see. Pick it up. 'Cause in this world, anything can hurt you, push you, then forget you. Stole my history, but I remember me. I remember me. It don't matter where I go, what I'm taught. Now you know that I remember me. I remember me. Even if I say goodbye, start to cry, do or die, I remember me. I remember me. oh, oh.